The Miami Dolphins are completely tearing down their foundation to escape cap hell, and this new front office is gambling the whole franchise on a high-stakes blueprint. We're breaking down that rumored trade package with the Bears for tight end Cole Kmet, alongside the hunt for Deebo Samuel to fix this empty wide receiver room. But the real bombshell is a technical leak, revealing a massive signing up front, a 10-year veteran Wall with 140 career starts, who's ready to sign a cheap deal the second that $20 million post-June 1st cap space hits the books. Hit the like button if you want the unvarnished truth. Let's look at that Cole Kmet Bears trade package first. This new front office under general manager Jon-Eric Sullivan and head coach Jeff Hafley ripped up the old playbook and set this entire franchise on a completely different path. They're making massive, ruthless moves that have already gutted and remade this roster from top to bottom. You can see the blueprint they're trying to draw up, but let's be honest, the final picture's still blurry as hell. This brings us to a massive trade rumor that's been catching fire online, and it hits the exact position this front office has been trying to fix behind closed doors. Cole Kmet's been nothing but a rock-solid piece for the Chicago Bears offense through the first half of the 2020s, but a fresh trade idea is floating around that pack the 27-year-old tight end's bags and send them straight down to Miami. This trade package, cooked up by ESPN's Seth Walders, got the Dolphins landing the veteran target while shipping a 2027 fourth-round draft pick and a 2027 sixth-round pick back up north to the Windy City. Kmet came into the league as a second-round pick back in the 2020 draft, and he's bringing a veteran presence that this current Dolphins roster simply doesn't have. A battle-tested, proven tight end who's put up real numbers year after year. Even with all that said, Sullivan's got to look hard at the numbers before pulling the trigger on Walders' proposal. The front office keeps telling us they're committed to building this thing through the draft, so burning multiple future picks, even if they're mid to late rounders, goes completely against the blueprint they've been preaching. Plus, you've got to look at where this kid's at on his own depth chart. His 2025 stats weren't awful on paper, with 347 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns, but he got completely phased out by Colston Loveland, that absolute monster of a first-round tight end Chicago drafted last year, who's now the undisputed #1 option for the Bears. This Chicago tight end is just one name on a long sheet of targets the Dolphins are hunting down over the next few months to put some real help around quarterback Malik Willis. Nobody knows if this trade's actually going to happen or fall apart, but one thing's set in stone. Willis needs serious help out there if he's going to survive his massive $67.5 million contract, and the front office is hunting everywhere to find him some targets. But a reliable tight end isn't the only fire this front office is scrambling to put out. A brand new report is leaking out that says Miami's hunt for wide receiver help is far from finished, and the big-name veteran keeps popping up in the rumors. Miami's wide receiver room looks completely unrecognizable heading into 2026. This new front office didn't waste any time. They moved on from Tyreek Hill and traded away Jalen Waddle, cutting loose the two most experienced and explosive playmakers this offense had. Now, the Dolphins did grab 3 new wideouts in the 2026 NFL Draft to fill those massive holes, but let's remember, they're all rookies, and leaning on a bunch of kids who haven't seen a single NFL snap is always a massive gamble. They need an experienced guy to line up next to Malik Washington and Tutu Atwell, so these young kids don't have to carry the whole passing game on their backs. On the May 2nd of Up and Adams, host Kay Adams and Bleacher Report's James Palmer both named Deebo Samuel as the exact kind of veteran playmaker who fits perfectly with what the Dolphins are building. Bringing in a guy like Deebo isn't just a luxury, it's a necessity if you want Malik Willis to have a fighting chance. Washington and Atwell are fine role players, but they aren't true #1 targets who command safety help. Palmer didn't hold back at all when breaking down Miami's desperate situation. He kept it totally real, saying, "They need bodies. They just need warm bodies down there, I think." When an insider says you just need warm bodies, it tells you everything you need to know about how bare the cupboard is. Sullivan cleared house, but now he's got to fill those empty lockers with actual football players. Adams took it a step further than just adding another name to the roster, explaining that Deebo's veteran presence would give Malik Willis a reliable security blanket he can actually trust on third down. We're talking about a guy who spent years running complex NFL systems and knows exactly how to get open when a play breaks down. Plus, she pointed out that Deebo already knows the Dolphins' offensive coordinator's system inside and out, meaning he wouldn't waste any time trying to learn the playbook from scratch during training camp. Having that built-in connection with the coaching staff is massive for a guy coming in late in the offseason. It means Deebo could hit the ground running on day one instead of spending weeks trying to figure out the terminology. The numbers from Samuel's last campaign prove he's still got plenty of gas left in the tank. Suiting up for the Washington Commanders in 2025, he put up a solid 69.4 overall PFF grade, hauling in 72 catches on 99 targets for 727 yards and finding the end zone 5 times. He averaged 10.1 yards every time he caught the ball and picked up a massive 471 yards after the catch. Proof right there that the guy's still an absolute weapon when he gets the ball in space. 471 yards after the catch tells you everything you need to know about his playstyle. The guy doesn't just catch the ball, he runs like a fullback and punishes defensive backs who try to tackle him out in the open field. Palmer looked at this potential Deebo signing through a much bigger lens than just standard box scores. He argued that signing a household name and a proven winner would send a loud message to every single guy sitting in that locker room, proving that even though this front office is tearing the roster down to the studs, they haven't completely thrown in the towel on winning football games right now. Jon-Eric Sullivan has so much on his plate. He explained during the show, there are certain things you have to do to sell the locker room. He pointed directly to the recent contract extension they handed running back Devon Achane as a perfect example of keeping the guys happy, and he believes bringing in Deebo would do the exact same thing for the team's morale. Extending Achane was a smart first step to show they take care of their own. Dropping Deebo into that mix would show the team that management actually cares about putting a watchable product on the turf this year. You can't liquidate Phillips, Chubb, Waddle, and Tyreek in a single calendar year without tanking your roster value, which is exactly why adding an asset like Deebo is purely about survival mechanics. Make no mistake, the Dolphins' hunt for a proven wideout isn't just random media guesswork. They've been actively sniffing around the market since before the draft even started. Loading up on pass catchers doesn't mean jack if your quarterback is constantly flat on his back. That's why a national analyst just connected Miami to a veteran lineman who could push for a starting role in 2026. Throwing 13 rookies into the building's fine for the future, but rookies get absolutely eaten alive in the trenches if you don't have some old-school graybeards to show them how to survive. If Willis is going to stay clean, this line needs real help right now. Over at ESPN, Matt Bowen just dropped a massive breakdown of the top 14 free agents still floating around on the market and the teams that make the most sense to sign them. Right at the top of his board for Miami is Taylor Decker, the veteran offensive tackle who got granted his release from the Detroit Lions earlier this offseason after a contract dispute. Decker's been a brick wall up north for a decade, and seeing him hit the open market had to get Sullivan's attention. Even if you've got a ton of miles on his tires, a plug-and-play left tackle doesn't just grow on trees. Now, Patrick Paul still penciled in as a projected starting left tackle, and throwing Decker into the mix doesn't automatically rip up that plan. What it does do is light a massive fire under Paul's rear end to make sure he's playing at his absolute ceiling, while giving the Dolphins a bulletproof backup option if things go south on Sundays. Competition breeds excellence, plain and simple. If Paul thinks he can just glide into the starting job without fighting for it, bringing in a 10-year vet will wake him up real quick. Keeping Malik Willis upright has got to be job number one for this franchise, especially with the kind of heavy money they're paying him on his current deal. Decker brings the exact kind of heavy resume you want in that meeting room. This Ohio State product's a 10-year NFL vet with 140 career starts under his belt, and he's logged at least 14 starts a year for the past 4 seasons straight. His PFF grades show just how steady he's been up front. He hasn't dipped below a 67 overall rating since way back in the 2022 season. The only reason Detroit even let him walk is because of a chronic shoulder issue he's been managing, which actually had him thinking about hanging up his cleats for good earlier this year. But he's made it clear since then that he fully wants to suit up for the 2026 season, and if his body holds together, Miami's landing a guy who's been a rock-solid starter for his whole career. Bowen did point out that Decker's 89.3% pass block win rate in 2025 was the second worst number he put up in his 10 years in the league. You've definitely got to keep an eye on that dip in pass pro, but when you look at the big picture of his career, Decker's proven he can play at a starter-level standard on almost any roster in football. Even a down year for a guy like Decker's miles better than the backup turnstiles we've had to watch over the years. I'll take a slightly slowed-down vet who knows every trick in the book over an unproven kid any day of the week. And wouldn't you know it, that run game muscle happens to be exactly where Decker's been most effective throughout his career. In 8 of his 10 seasons in the dirt, he finished with a run-blocking PFF grade of 62 or better, a mark that hits Paul's biggest weakness right between the eyes. Getting Decker in that training camp and on the game day roster would completely raise the bar for the whole group. If the Dolphins actually decide to go after him, the only way it happens is on a cheap, short-term, team-friendly deal, something that gives them a veteran option up front, while this line and the locker room vibe keep forming under the new regime. If Decker wants a 1-year prove-it deal to protect his market value and keep Malik Willis clean, you signed that contract yesterday. If he's demanding a massive bag of guaranteed cash, let him be someone else's cap headache and let the young kids play. Before you go, hit that like and subscribe button. Be part of our community and stay updated. Let's keep Dolphins strong together. Catch you in the next one.